All right, hello everyone, and welcome to Chevalier's Online for a very, very special evening because tonight is the inauguration of the Liz Newstat Poetry Series. Liz was the manager of Chevalier's for many years, and there really was no bigger champion of poets, especially our local LA poets, many of whom we have. I have two housekeeping notes. First, I want to encourage everyone to pick up a copy or multiple copies of our poets' works, which you can find either in store or you can drop us a line at chevaliersbooks@gmail.com and we'll assist you. And second, please keep your microphone muted. I know it's not quite the same as an in-person event, but we'd love for you to share your enthusiasm in the chat. And now I have the distinct pleasure of introducing one of our two hosts for the next hour, an incredible writer and teacher who has been nominated for the Pushcart more times than I can count, Stephanie Hammer.
Thank you so much, Kelsey. Thank you so much to Teresa, who helped us organize this event. Thank you so much, Chevaliers. Thank you so much, my wonderful buddy and partner at arms, Rich Ferguson. And thank you so much to all of you who are coming to join us from various parts of the world with the help of an amazing array of uniquely brilliant and wonderful poets to collectively remember the amazing Elizabeth Newstat. Liz was a passionate bookseller. She was a ferocious advocate for poetry books. The poets here in the room who've been to Chevalier's know that she would work to sell your book to someone who walked in who didn't even know they liked poetry. She was an incredible advocate for all of us and for all poets everywhere. She was a scintillating conversationalist. She was a very chill postmodern Jewish mom. She was a devoted smoker, and she was a beloved, beloved friend. I'm going to kick off the evening with one of her favorite poems of mine that I actually read at Chevalier's a few years back and that appeared in the Cultural Weekly a couple of years ago, thanks to Alexis Rohn Fancher, also a wonderful poet. And the title of this poem is War. There's a war here on the two fences, my neighbors and mine, between the squirrels and the birds. It's been going on for days. The two squirrels, one big, one little, mount an attack on a tree. Why? No idea. There's some weird fruit maybe, or maybe it's existential. The tree is there and we must attack it. And the bird, what kind? No idea. I'm a city person, and this is going to be a city poem. So get off my back about subspecies and breeds. Anyway, the bird flies after them, attacking and flapping and pecking till they both run back across the fences and hide under the part of the roof that's higher, and so makes a little bomb shelter for them. I feel sorry for the squirrels at first, but they recover from the pecking and they crawl back along the fence to attack the tree again. They look like soldiers. They are soldiers on a mission. And I wonder if there's any way out of this. Attacks and counterattacks and the wounded licking their tails under buildings. I wonder if my neighbor notices. Probably not. Since his wife left him, he isn't home much. At the coffee shop with other neighbors whom I recognize but don't know personally, I see him sometimes. I never saw the neighbor and his wife fighting, but one time I heard her orgasming alone with the windows open. He had gone to work, just her car in the garage. It sounded happy. She was glad, I think, to finally have a moment's peace. Thanks. Okay, and I'm going to cede the Zoom room floor to Rich.
That was wonderful, Stephanie. I'm actually going to, toward the end of the evening, I'm actually going to read a poem of mine that Liz enjoyed as well. So I'm glad you started out with that. Yeah, I can't really say much more about Liz than you already said. You said it so well. I really enjoyed just every time I go to Chevalier to see Liz, and also Stephanie, our time together when we were able to host our event live and in person, but this is great. And Kelsey, thank you so much. Thanks for all of you being here. Thanks to the poets for taking part of this. First up, we have Donna Spruijt-Metz. She's a psychology professor, a professional flautist, was a rabbinical school candidate, but is mostly a poet. Her poetry has appeared in venues such as Copper Nickel, Rhino, and Poetry Northwest. She's authored 2 chapbooks, Slippery Surfaces by Finishing Line Press and Haunt the World with Flowery Conroy and Ghost City Press. Let's give a wonderful Zoom room welcome, Chevaliers, welcome to Donna Spruijt-Metz.
Oh, thank you. That was so nice. Really so sweet. It is an honor to be here tonight and to honor Liz's memory. When I crossed over into poetry, Liz was really the first person outside of my writer friends that took me serious as a poet. She let me play in her backyard and organize poetry readings at Chevalier's. And when my first chapbook came out, Brendan was kind enough to read with me at Chevalier's. So I'm going to read a couple of poems tonight that I'm not sure Liz would approve of. They are very Jewish. There's a lot of God. I wasn't going to read poems about God, but I'm thinking a lot about God lately. So I just thought, you know what? I'm just going to come clean. But they're incredibly irreverent. And I know that Liz would appreciate that. So the first one is coming out in Sultry and Lyre, which is a great journal, in about 2 days. And the things that you need to know about this poem are that the Synagogue is a 400-year-old synagogue that still stands in Amsterdam, and it's beautiful. When I say you in this poem, and most of my poems, the poems I'm reading tonight, I mean the holy or God or the goddess or however you conceive of that. And lastly, you need to know that Jenever is a Dutch version of gin. That said, God in Amsterdam, the Synagogue, sea times horses slipping down your holy walls, the 400-year-old bricks and glass, Shabbat's opaque light filling the women's balcony, no service now. Just this milky glow, the Torah quiet in its closed ark. Hello, God, I say, come on out. I know you're here somewhere. After all, this is your house. The least you can do is offer me a drink. Have a drink, you say. You sit down in the deafening rustle of your knot robes, pour good Jenever into fine small glasses, and there we are, going at it, shot to shot. Finally, someone I can't drink under the table. You pour another, we are jolly. You answer all my questions about death. Okay, about my own death, about your laws. I mean, are they really yours or did we just make them up? And peace, why is it so hard? And kindness and the dew on the morning grasses. You keep up a steady stream of Jenever, making sure I am too drunk to remember your answers. This next one is entitled We Are All God's Poems, and it is actually going to be in an anthology called We Are All God's Poems, in which all 100+ poems have the title We Are All God's Poems. So We Are All God's Poems, my version. God, your desk is vast, and since you are everywhere, the desk is in some sense portable, like the stars. I imagine you hitching up your glorious robes, your living garment, gathering it all up to sit at your desk, cluttered with notes and fragments, You are diligent. You show up to the blank page every day. And today, if you have things like days, well, let's call it today for now. You are working from a prompt. It's endearing. All around you, which is everywhere, are scattered tiny sparks of light, your rough drafts waiting for release, longing for each other, and maybe a place at your side, which is everywhere. Which segues right into this poem, which is everywhere, which appeared in Muse Madness, which is a crazy little journal that lasted for about 3 goes, which is everywhere. Inside your tents, which are everywhere, you are passing out first aid kits, blankets, inhalers, taking on your many forms that we are so slow to recognize. You pulling like a compass, a vortex, a tornado, but so much stillness in the eye of it. The sparrow makes her nest, deposits her young as if safe, because everywhere, because nowhere. And now how fragile your endless silence, the whir of it, which is everywhere, the whir of my prayers. If praise is what you need, come and get it, but please leave the bird in peace. Her eggs, our roundness, so essential, rolling through my heart's highways, looking for signs on how to use this strength that you have provided, enough to cross over to you. The fragrant trees, I have so much to learn. The pain you have provided has honed my senses. I am here now. Your rains, which are everywhere, are harsh. I scamper towards cover, caught in your deluge and drenched. Allow me to hesitate before I enter your sun, before I need to be mindful and upright. Let me rest in my imperfections. Let me be wet and silent at your threshold, which is everywhere. Let me see how I'm doing on time. I'm good. Now something a little more uplifting, a poem about death. I think what you need to know about this one is Shiva. I don't know, you probably all know what Shiva is. It's how Jewish people mourn. We take a week of mourning and sit Shiva, as it's called at home. This one's called Women at Shiva. When a mother dies, she leaves her residue, a snail's trail across the days of her daughters. The trails form glittering webs, crisscrossing sidewalks everywhere, cracking them. We remember the mothers just as we forget the trails, ignore them, skirt them. We get on with it until the next mother dies. And then we, the daughters of the dead, are called back into it, into the muck of it, the pull of loss, the vertigo shift in generations, the startle of aloneness, the want, until it is our turn to leave the same glistening scar. Last one. This one was in last spillway with some of you, I believe. This is called Doppler effect. What does it mean to turn? Turn towards, turn away, turn tail, turn the wood on a lathe, make it beautiful, turn as a stone or a shell in the darkened seas until smooth. Return, turn back to what you thought you left behind. Come back, smoother now, chastised by your own salt, a bit braver. And this is what I mean about time, the false sweep of it, the imagined flow, what I remember, what I forget, the small kindnesses, when you come close, how even that can't push it down for long. Turn the pain over and over until, like a pearl, it grows luminescent and regular. And then this, too, is what I mean about time, how it stops here, how we cast a circle and you split me open and something passes through, or I pass through something, as the siren passes through the night. Everyone's emergency, eager to stop time, to turn back just for a moment, without turning to salt, thirsty for water from the rock. What I want is to feel the world without pulling back, to be able to stretch out my hand. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Donna. That was great. You know, before this event started, I was thinking that this was the Poetry Minion, and indeed it is. And Liz, who was, I think, pretty atheistic, but Jewish, certainly would have appreciated all the work you're doing with Judaism and poetry. It's my genuine pleasure to introduce Chiwan Choi to you. Although I imagine a lot of you know him already and know his work. He's the author of 4 books: The Flood, Abductions, The Yellow House, and My Name is Wolf. He wrote, presented, and destroyed the novel Ghostmaker through the course of 2015. Chiwan is a partner at Writ Large Press and a member of the Accomplices. Will you please help me give a warm welcome to Chiwan Choi?
Thank you so much, Stephanie. And Rich, thanks for asking me to be part of this. Chevalier was my favorite bookstore in LA, and a lot of that had to do with Liz. Probably most of it had to do with Liz. And certain people, you just never forget their kindness, and it's not like just flippant kindness, but she would send me emails sometimes just to let me know, encourage me about my book and stuff like that, just out of nowhere. And she was always open to me suggesting poets to have at the store to read, and she would like trust me when I said I really love this poet, and I really wished I had some space to read, and she would really work hard to give them time on stage to read at the store. Yeah, I miss her. I already missed her, like not being in LA, but some people just randomly enter your life, and it's not like they are part of your life completely, but in this one small way, they just have such an impact on you. And I really appreciate her and celebrate her. I'm gonna read a set from My Name is Wolf, which is my 4th book, and it will be coming out next month. And I've been making little sets from the book and like little EPs. And this set is called My Name is Wolf, The Open Palms of the Universe. You learn to be afraid before you ever had a chance to learn your name. They wanted you to believe that death was the enemy because it was your birthright. You believed it when the snow fell for the first time and the winter came and the dog hung frozen from the balcony. And you feared the invisibility of you without a name as you howled. I will lead you to your name. Death will still come because you will have earned it, and it will be yours as it always was. We will begin with what's beneath your feet. Its name is soil. This is land. This is the ground. This is the open palms of the universe as it holds you up in worship. When you were a child, they taught you about the winter, pointing at the dog hanging from your balcony. Now it is night in some year much later, and you have been standing too long in the snow. that silences your life for once. But even in the deepest hours, buried in the cold, death remains visible in front of you. Sometimes it is a fire burning, sometimes it's just the memory of burning. And sometimes it's the form of your mother tilting uncontrollably to one side as she reaches for you. This is how I think it goes. Find someone who will replace all the things I fear about dying, until their bones too shatter in regret as I step out into the first sun after winter and breathe. My father, you see, is crying somewhere in LA because his little brother has died in Korea and he can't fly there to mourn. They were like twins. I mistook one for the other once. They took me to the mountain and then I mistook grandmother's grave for the whole mountain. What I'm trying to say is that I walked through New York today like a familiar ghost and turned left around the new coffee shop where a person with brown skin once stood loving. And around the corner were the trees and the silence and the snow that covered the whole of it. And winter spoke to me again, asking me to name my body, to name my mother, to name the hours clutched in my hands like such rocks scooped up from the bottom of the river. They called it prison, but it was your skin. They called it progress while breaking your bones. You said blame, but it was your heart. I will call it today, these seconds that I lose on your shoulders. I will call her mother, who searches my face for her childhood. I will call it father, this body dissolving. Where were you Tuesday when I called your name? I held onto her arm before I knew to call it bridge. That was love in the front yard that she called opium. You called my name when I reached for the dirt. Thank you.
Was that it, Chiwan, or do you have more? I was almost like, it was it.
That's it.
Oh, oh goodness. That was amazing. Wow. Thank you. You know, and you said something, yeah, and the people in the chat agree. And you said something that besides your poetry that really stuck with me. You were saying about missing Liz, and I live within walking distance of Larchmont. And, you know, when I go up there now, like on a Sunday or something, normally when Liz was around, she'd be out in front of the bookstore with a cigarette and those cool sandals of hers with the big plastic bright fruit on it. And it was just, that was just like Larchmont, just, she was that beacon. And it's just really not the same without her. But anyway, thank you for reminding me how special she still is. And thank you for the amazing work. Up next, Brendan Constantine. I could go on and on about Brendan, his accomplishments. However, he did send a very short bio, so we'll just keep it at this. Brendan Constantine is a poet based here in Los Angeles and a longtime supporter of Chevalier's books. He teaches poetry and creative writing at the Windward School. Give it up for Brendan Constantine.
Hello, everyone. What a delight to be here with you. Thanks so much for the poetry that's already been shared and for the memories of Liz. Rich, I think I have you to thank for the introduction to Liz back in 2015. And, you know, as was her way, you know, I probably, like most of the poets here, I I got asked to be part of an event that was at Chevalier's. And shortly thereafter, Liz approached me and said, I really liked what I heard, and was just made me feel like a grown-up writer. And then immediately asked, did I know anybody else, and would I like to create more events for the bookstore? Eventually, we started to do workshops right there in the store. I do hope that comes back. I looked forward to her letters. They were always catty. And for a while there, we were also exchanging, every now and then, we would finish our letters to each other with a quote from something that we had just read, something that we liked. And so I'm going to put in the chat right now the last quote that she emailed me. She sent me a quote from Osip Mandelstam, and I think it's apt. I love my poor earth because I have seen no other. Just a few poems for you. I'm going to keep track of my time. I'm trying to read only newer things this evening. This is called Civil Twilight. Just after sundown, when most accidents happen, when small things lose their shadows and curtains soak with television, when the cricket gets lonely enough to sing for its killer, that's the true witching hour, not the middle of the night. There isn't one. Not the dark of the dark, but the darkening. It's before and not during. It's what are you trying to say? And I already told you. This is when purple was invented, and both the apology and the suicide note. When the dead make their best prediction. And this is when we, you and I, tend to enter our own poems, walk around in them, make a point of breathing. No matter the season, I listen for birds, smell for sweet alyssum. I don't know what you confirm, but I bet it's always the same thing first, like touching a key in your pocket. We both wonder if we'll finally confess our part in the great crime, or find a way to describe hesitation, rain sounds, the breath of animals, without comparing them to anything, which means this is when we fail, as music fails, and everyone's picture. Even this hour falls short of an hour. It's the time it takes to lose sight of a balloon, one we let go on purpose because it's dying to get away. And this is a poem about God, and so it's just called Heretical Poem. My friend Robert wonders if God is the green light inside the escalator. I haven't asked my neighbor, but judging by his t-shirts, he thinks God is a seagull trapped in a rainbow. I heard my Greek grandmother say the word a few times, once when she burned her wrist on a stove, and again softly when I dyed my hair blue. It was a long time ago, and even God was younger. My mother believes in something, she says, even though everything points against it. My father believes devoutly, in fact, that everyone is equally wrong. This wrongness, he says, is divine. Sometimes when I'm driving, I speak aloud to the empty seat next to me. I ask questions, make demands, and rehearse what I would say to the past. If that isn't a prayer, I don't know what is, unless your picture face down on the dresser is one. The cup I set on it yesterday, the hard sugar that survived the tea. Unscheduled poem. The next time you have the falling dream, try arms for why. Not only will you land easier, you'll hang on to the picture longer, your grandparents in their flying suits. When someone says they've had a bad day, tell them it's because Mercury is in Petrograd. When they correct you, say, no, it's actually the old name for St. Petersburg. When they walk away, be sure to shake your head. This is the time we did not agree upon for poetry. You remember, it was now. The last time we met like this, we were strangers, not like today, the two of us intimate as books. Back then, you were all about anonymity, and I recall thinking I was in the absence of true genius. This is much better. We should do whatever more often. When something vanishes, February, a voice, the wine, believe it has a heaven because it does. Understand what makes it hard to see is time, and time is not distance. It is instance, which means it is always due. The first time is unknowable, just accept it. Here are some other things to accept. Lambs, string, bruises, the number 10, a sister, nothing, different nothing. Here is a riddle. There is no death if you cooperate with death. Do not cooperate with death. Also, right now, this is the falling dream. Okay, last one, which is also about a dream. Liz told me never to hide the darkness, so I'm going to end on darkness. This is just, I keep being followed by guns, so to speak. They've featured a lot in my career over the years, and I've written a lot about them. And just when I think I'm done writing about them, another one goes off, so to speak. This last poem is called Chalk. Last night, I dreamt I was dying from gunshots to my heart. But I was also a doctor, and I was treating people for the same wounds. They kept coming. No sooner had I finished with one person than another was wheeled in front of me, and I would start again, saying, "You're going to be fine. Just breathe and watch the light above my head." My blood ran so freely, my uniform turned scarlet. I knew it was too much, but how do you stop? How do you say, "Forgive me, it has to be my turn now"? So I kept working, kept pulling the bullets out with 2 fingers and filling the holes with milk, because what do I know about battlefield medicine? All I know is dreams don't have beginnings or ends. I know each ending casts an echo in the bed. And I know a bed is everywhere it's safe to dream. Eventually, the room began to darken. I thought, just my luck, the lamp is burning out. How will I see to keep pouring? Then I ran out of blood, and my heart makes sounds like an old car. "Pardon," I said to the man under my hand. "Nothing's gone right today. But you're going to be fine. I want you to breathe and imagine there's a light above my head. Concentrate. Tell me when you see it. It means the shooting has stopped. It means I'm done." Thank you.
Thanks so much, Brendan. You know, I always tell my poetry students and all my writing students, you know, the bottom line is you always want to make people glad they showed up to hear you. And I always feel that when I hear you read. I always feel so glad I showed up. These just have been such amazing poems so far. I've been sort of, it's like, okay, I'm not going to cry. I'm going to get through this whole thing. So far, so good, but we'll see, because here comes Kim Dower, who is just a fabulous poet. She's published 4 collections of poetry with Red Hen Press: Air Kissing on Mars, Slice of Moon, Last Train to the Missing Planet, and Sunbathing on Tyrone Power's Grave. Her poems have been widely anthologized and nominated for several pushcarts. And remember that she is Poet Laureate Emerita of West Hollywood. Please join me in welcoming wonderful Kim.
Thank you. It's just a pleasure to be here. I wish we could all be together in beautiful Chevaliers. And anyway, I used to love going to visit Liz. I would find myself driving down that street just so I could go say hi to her. And we used to have all kinds of conversations, but my most favorite things about Liz were, well, that little sly smile that she had, and you never knew what was going on. What was she thinking about? And sometimes I'd walk in and the smile would happen and I would think, am I wearing something funny, or is there something like stuck to my head? Or because you just never knew. And she had that adorable, crunchy laugh from being such a devoted smoker. But I recognize that laugh because I used to have one of those a long time ago, but it was a great laugh. So you'd want to make her laugh when you did a poetry reading. I know she liked dark, but she also loved to laugh. And so when Sunbathing came out, there was a poem that she would always want me to read. And it made her smile, and it's called Unruly Aura. So all the poems I picked for tonight are for Liz, and this is called Unruly Aura. The cashier at the health food store tells me I have a beautiful aura. Wait, I tell her. If you want to see a really beautiful aura, wait until I've taken my Renew Life Ultimate Flora probiotic. After that, my aura will knock your socks off. She smiles at me and rings me up. My money has a beautiful aura too. My dollar bills float out of my pink wallet. The man behind me swells from the heat I generate. Each step I take brings me closer to God, the final, fabulous aura. Take my hand, I tell her, squeeze my aura. It's hungry and looking for someone to devour. So well, these are all for Liz. And, you know, we're all reading a lot about death. And so I'm just going to jump in and read a poem called, He Said I Wrote a Lot, whoops. He said I wrote about death, and this was written for a great poet and great teacher of mine, Thomas Lux, who after he saw this manuscript of mine, he said, wow, Kim, you're really writing a lot about death. And I was shocked because I didn't think I was writing a lot about death. And then when Liz read the book, she said, wow, Kim, you're writing a lot about death. So I guess it was unanimous. And so this poem, I guess it's for death. He said I wrote a lot about death, and I didn't mean to. This was not my intent. I meant to say how I loved the birds, how watching them lift off the branches, hearing their song, helps me get through the gray morning. When I wrote about how they crash into the dark, small places that only birds can fit through, layers of night sky, pipes through drains, how I've seen them splayed across gutters, piles of feathers stuck together by dried blood, how once my car ran over a sparrow. Though I swerved, the road was narrow, the bird not quick enough, dragged it under my tire as I drove to forget, bird disappearing part by part, beak, slender feet, fretful, hot. I did not mean to write about death, but rather how when something dies, we remember who we love, and we die a little too. We who are still breathing, we who still have the energy to survive. So it is so true that when someone you love dies, you just think of everyone you've ever loved who's died. And it's this, this sad, strangely happy moment also. So, so Liz and I both come from New York City, and we used to talk a lot about how we hated to drive. And actually, I just hate to drive, and I hate to park, and I hate to do anything behind a wheel, basically. So I wrote a poem once that's just about parking. And, you know, we always say poetry is about the moment. It's one moment that we kind of blow up that no one else might think about. So this is for Liz. It's called In the Moment. I just parallel parked exactly right for the first time ever. Maybe because I wasn't imagining a tsunami killing me on Sunday in Laguna, or thinking about my mother alone at home, or when I dropped the puppy off the patio. She was fine. I never recovered. Today, windows down, no radio, just sky, steering wheel, and my hands were one, and backing into the space, feeling my tires hug the curb was a clean slide into home. That rare fit of perfection was upon me. And let me say right now, I didn't waste it. So I think of that. I was going to say whenever I parallel park, but that was the only time I ever did it right. So I've never had that. Never had that. So this is a tiny little poem that Liz came over to me after I read it and said, "What's going on there?" And nothing was going on here. Honestly, I don't even know where this poem came from, but it's called She Never Trusted Happiness. Maybe it was something her mother said one morning as the young girl dipped her donut into a glass of whole milk. Powdered sugar still on her lips. Her mother tells her, "Don't get used to this." I had a really nice mother. She never would have said that, but there you go. So let's see. I'm gonna read a poem because it's almost Father's Day, and it's another poem about how when people die who we love, they're always there. So Liz will always be there for us. This poem is called Thirst. My father never saw my house, though without his modest savings, we never could have bought it. My father didn't know his grandson past the age of 10, but today at 28, my boy has his eyes and many of his talents. My father died thirsty. We couldn't fill his needs. No one could. He had a big personality, my mother would say, sucked the air out of a room, needed you to pay attention to his every word, a wall of talk we wanted to jump over. My father could tell a good joke, do the accents, had the timing. Why wasn't that appreciated? He could sell anything, untangle a knot out of the most delicate chain. His stuff looked nice, his paintings framed. He'd serve pats of butter on a dish, restaurant style. Our people leave us and we let them go. They fade into the tapestry of the dead. An occasional memory slapping us in the face, tapping us on the shoulder, kissing the breeze by our cheek. We wait for the wind to blow these reminders, like it did for me today, just now in my garden that he never saw but would have loved, even though my roses are struggling, their white petals dropping. So thirsty they are, so ready for a drink. We miss you and we love you, Liz. Thank you, everybody.
Absolutely. That was amazing, Kim. Thank you so much. You know, you said something that slice, you know, like Chiwan said earlier, like just missing Liz. And then you mentioned something about that sly smile of hers. And this poem that I'm going to do, the very first time I did it was at one of the Chevalier readings with Stephanie. And after I did it, Liz kind of just gave me one of those sly smiles and sort of a head nod. And I was like, cool. But anyway, this is for you, Liz. Wanting. Dust balls want to be bullet trains want to be snails, snails want to be crows, crows want to be Beethoven's fifth. Beethoven's fifth wants to be a fifth of gin wants to be holy water wants to be mud puddles want to be rainbows, rainbows want to be nooses, nooses want to be church bells want to be bongs, bongs want to be butterflies, butterflies want to be buffalo stampedes. Buffalo stampedes want to be angels dancing on the head of a pin. Angels dancing on the head of a pin want to be solar systems swirling. Solar systems swirling want to be sandboxes. Sandboxes want to be mountains. Mountains want to be ladybugs. Ladybugs want to be wolves. Wolves want to be radios. Radios want to be moments of silence. Moments of silence want to be lightning and thunder. Lightning and thunder want to be serial killers. Serial killers want to be reborn into baby Buddhas. Baby Buddhas want to grow up to be electric guitars. Electric guitars want to be junkyard dogs. Junkyard dogs want to be anything but a cat. Cat wants to be a Cadillac. Cadillac wants to be a garbage truck. Garbage truck wants to be a wet dream. A wet dream wants to be heaven. Heaven wants to be a dive bar. Dive bars want to be diamonds. Diamonds want to be handfuls of dirt. Handfuls of dirt want to be thrown into graves. Graves want to be winds. Winds want to be human. And humans are forever wanting to be everything at once. So thank you so much to Donna, Spruijt-Metz, Chiwan Choi, Brendan Constantine, Kim Dower, Stephanie, you had such, and Kelsey at Chevalier's Books, all of you, our auspicious audience with so many amazing poets in the audience. Stephanie, you had such warm and beautiful words to open the show. What do you want to say to close the show?
Now that guy, wait while I turn on my microphone. Just what a beautiful reading, and thank you so much to everybody. I found everybody's work incredibly moving and on point for Liz, and I hope you'll all come back in September or October. We haven't decided which, for the next in the Liz Newstat series. Buy some books. Liz wants you to.
Buy books. Thanks everyone for coming.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.